Today, we're digging into the absolutely wild story of xAI's 1,000-day journey from just a concept to a full-blown tech empire. So how does a company go from literally zero to a multi-billion-dollar acquisition by SpaceX in under 3 years? Well, let's break down their playbook.
It all starts right here, July 2023. A simple announcement. Fast forward less than 3 years, and it's being bought by SpaceX in a deal that completely reshapes the AI landscape. You know, that kind of speed isn't just fast, it's almost unheard of. So, what was their secret? How did they do it?
Well, the secret sauce, the core of their strategy, is an idea called the flywheel effect. It's basically a strategic loop where every part of the business just fuels the next, creating this unstoppable momentum. All right. So here's our game plan for breaking down that flywheel. First, we'll look at the fuel, the money. Then, the incredible machine they built with it. After that, we'll dive into the AI models that came out of that machine. Then, we get to the end game, the move that brought it all together. And finally, we'll tackle some of the big questions this whole thing leaves us with. Okay, first up, the fuel for this rocket. To build an AI empire at this kind of warp speed, you don't just need some cash. You need an astronomical, almost unimaginable amount of it.
So here's how that cycle really works. Picture this. Money pays for the giant computers, the machines. Those machines then build the powerful AI models. The models create products that people actually want to use, which, you guessed it, attracts even more money. So every single turn of the wheel just makes the next one spin faster and faster.
The first massive injection of fuel came in May 2024, a staggering $6 billion funding round. Now, this wasn't just startup cash. This was a clear signal to the world they were building something huge right from the very beginning.
And then, get this, just 7 months later, they did it again, another $6 billion. This round confirmed the flywheel was already spinning like crazy. Money was specifically meant to scale up their supercomputer, which they named Colossus.
And then came the knockout punch, a mind-blowing $20 billion round just over a year later. If you add that all up, we're talking over $30 billion in about 18 months. With that kind of capital, you're not just building fast, you're practically bending reality to your will.
So, with pockets deeper than almost anyone on the planet, xAI moved to the second stage of the flywheel, building the machine. This is where all that cash was transformed into raw, brutal computing power. And they didn't just build it. They did it at a speed that seems impossible. According to NVIDIA, the company that actually makes the chips, xAI built its 100,000 GPU supercomputer in just 122 days in Memphis. What's even crazier is they started training AI models just 19 days after the very first server rack was delivered. 19 days, that's just unreal.
So what's actually inside this beast? We're talking 100,000 of NVIDIA's top-of-the-line Hopper GPUs spread across more than 1,500 liquid-cooled racks. This wasn't just another data center. It was one of the most powerful AI factories on the planet. And that's a fact confirmed by both NVIDIA and Supermicro.
But all that massive scale created a massive problem: power. The ambition was to grow to 1 million GPUs, which would need nearly 2 gigawatts of power. The reality, though, as reported by Reuters, was a big clash with the local community, leading to public hearings over a new gas-fired power plant and even the threat of a lawsuit. It was a crystal-clear sign of the immense environmental hurdles that come with trying to scale AI this big.
Okay, so the machine is built and humming along. Now we get to the output. This is the third crucial part of the flywheel, the AI models themselves, and the products built on top of them.
And the pace of innovation here was, again, just relentless. The timeline for their main model, Grok, shows this rapid-fire evolution. They started by open-sourcing the first version, which is a pretty rare move for a top AI company. From there, it was a blur. They quickly added new features like agentic reasoning, letting the AI do complex tasks, and native tool use so it could interact with other software. All of this was happening in just a matter of months.
But, you know, when you make huge claims about performance, you can bet there's going to be huge scrutiny. And the release of Grok 3 kicked off with a tech press quickly called the benchmark battle. So here's the deal. xAI claimed Grok 3 was beating its competitors on key tests, but those claims were almost immediately challenged. Critics started pointing to very specific settings and methods that might have, well, skewed the results in their favor. As TechCrunch put it so well, the truth about AI performance is often found somewhere between the marketing hype and the critical takedowns. And that brings us to the final and perhaps the most audacious turn of the flywheel, the end game. This was all about total vertical integration.
In March of 2025, xAI acquired X, the social media platform we all used to know as Twitter. This was a jaw-dropping move. Instantly, the AI company had a massive, real-time fire hose of human data and a built-in distribution channel to hundreds of millions of users.
But they weren't finished. Less than a year later, the tables turned completely. SpaceX acquired xAI, and just like that, everything was consolidated into one single massive entity. So, what was the grand strategy? It was described by both the financial press and Musk himself as the ultimate vertical integration. You now had the data and distribution from X, you had the world's class computing from Colossus, and you had the cutting-edge models from xAI, all under one roof. The flywheel had become a fortress.
But when you build an empire this fast, you inevitably leave a trail of unresolved issues and some really important questions about what comes next.
Yeah, getting the full picture means we have to acknowledge these lingering issues. The arguments over benchmarks raise serious questions about transparency. The immense power needs are a huge challenge for sustainability. And of course, reports of controversial or offensive outputs from their models mean those fundamental questions of governance and safety are still front and center.
And this all leaves us with one final critical question. The story of xAI is, without a doubt, a masterclass in how to execute the flywheel strategy. But when one single entity manages to consolidate this much data, this much distribution, and this much raw AI power this quickly, the biggest question isn't how they did it, but what happens next.